Rev up your engines!
Mad Motor says, Scotty, when will car prices fall? Well, used car prices have already started to fall. I've seen that. People are getting used cars at better prices. New cars, well, we live in a hyperinflation economy that the government is lying about. They say, oh, inflation is only 2.8%. Hey, do these guys go to the grocery store? Do they buy car insurance? Do they buy house insurance? Do they pay their electric bill? Come on, insurance bills are up 25% this year. It's a load of horse manure. So the car manufacturers just follow it along. Now, eventually, something's got to break, because the other day, a guy brought me a 6-year-old Dodge Ram, had like 35,000 miles, loaded, and he liked it. He says, check it out. I checked it out, said, I'm not a Dodge fan, but this one's good for where it is now. I said, why'd you buy Dodge? She said, well, the other day I went to buy a brand new Ford at the Ford dealer, and a loaded F-150, they wanted $81,000. So he said, I paid $26,000 for this used Dodge, and he was happy. He used it to pull a camper for the kids. He doesn't put that many miles on it. So some of this stuff is insanity, and I can't go on forever. $81,000 F-150 pickup trucks. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, if you wonder what's going on with Ford, you're with me, because there's one I had yesterday. It just kind of blows out all the problems that Ford has from the top all the way to the bottom to the guys working on the cars at the dealerships. My neighbor Tommy here brings me his 8-year-old Ford pickup truck, F-150. It's the 6-cylinder twin turbo. It's only got 45,000 miles on it, right? It's making this horrible noise every once in a while. So I took it to Ford twice. They said, well, we don't know what it is. We don't have any problems, blah, 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 right? And it would make the noise here and there. I heard it when he came down the street, but then it stopped. He had recorded the noise on his phone. So he played the noise on his phone. I said, well, that's a vacuum pump. And he said, yeah, you know what? I think it sounds like a vacuum pump. But these idiots said, oh, we don't even know what it is, right? All they work on is Fords, and they can't even figure out a simple problem like that. So I look at it. I heard the noise, and I says, noise coming from behind the headlight here. He says, yeah. So I said, well, there's a vacuum pump there because it's a twin turbo. You can't run the brake booster on a turbocharged car. They have their own 12-volt operated vacuum pump to run the brake booster, right? So I tell him it's that, and I said, well, I talked to him for about, he's a neighbor. I was talking for about 45 minutes. He starts it up. It makes a noise. And, of course, there it is, the pump making a noise, right? The idiots at the Ford dealer, all they work on is Fords. Right? And they can't figure out a simple problem like the vacuum pump. And on top of it all, they said, well, we've never seen this, so we don't have problems. Just Google it yourself. You see, they have all kinds of problems with these stupid vacuum pumps breaking. So not only do they make them cheap, but the idiots they have at the dealerships can't even figure out what the problem is. Don't think about buying one of those things. If they can't even fix the ones that are 8 years old, the newer ones are even more complex. Well, a guy took his Cybertruck to a car wash and then didn't run. Well, electricity and water don't go together, right? 2 months and a couple thousand miles of driving, kept an ad of YouTube, takes the Cybertruck to the car wash and then it won't go. The screen went black, wouldn't respond. He did all the factory reboot procedures, it still wouldn't go. I guess it was rebooting all night, and when he got up in the morning, at least he could drive. And most of the stuff functioned, right? Now, of course, Tesla didn't tell him what the problem was. They pretend there's no problems, right? This is supposed to be a Cybertruck, right? Tough Cybertruck. Listen to this. The Cybertruck's owner's manual cautions against ever washing a truck in direct sunlight, and there's a section expressly mentioning that the truck has to be switched into car wash mode before washing it to avoid damaging parts of the car. Some truck, well, you gotta put it in car wash mode. It's too dangerous to wash it without. Okay, people, what about when you go through a rainstorm, right? Does it have a rainstorm mode you're supposed to push? Hey, this stuff is just nonsense, I feel for the fools who bought these things. And of course, they're all fans, so they'll take anything. They would probably take them if they were smeared in dog poop. Oh, well, that's just the way they come. We'll live with that, right? It's just insanity that people pay all this money for these things. You can't even go through a car wash. The thing that conks out. Then it sits reprogramming itself all night. Be leery before you buy one of these things, please. Don't throw your money away. No, the Canadians have lost their minds thinking they're going to save the world from polluting, when in reality they're hardly doing anything at all. Canada now says to curb global rising temperatures, all light-duty vehicles sold by 2035 in Canada cannot produce tailpipe pollution. I was watching one of these TED Talks, okay? In a TED Talk, the guy was talking in, I believe it was Cambridge University in England, and he was telling the students, he says, you don't understand just about anything of the big picture. Even if you stopped all the pollution that the entire country of England did, it would affect less than 1% of the entire planet, right? We're only talking about car pollution here. So in England, it's something like 14% is cars. So spit in a bucket, right? Well, you Canadians must realize another thing. You're half the size of Great Britain, just about, population-wise, right? If you stop pollution from polluting cars, it's going to be even less. It's about half of that, right? So it's such a small percentage. People think that, oh, what they're going to do is going to help. No, it isn't. Not that tiny amount of stuff. And not the trillions that would be spent forcing all new electric cars to be built and new electric power plants and right? They just think that they're doing their part. You know, they're like the people that, I'm saving the planet. I'm bringing recycling bags to the grocery store. Oh, it makes you feel good. Like, oh, I recycled. You know, most of that recycling just goes in the garbage or they burn it somewhere. It's not actually recycled. It's just to make people feel better about themselves. Look, it's not going to change the world. And all the money that's being spent could be spent in better places. Instead of spending it on regulations of the poor working class slobs, right? Yeah, we work and pay taxes. Put the onus on them, not the big corporations that do most of the polluting, right? But we'll blame them in their cars for the whole thing, right? Well, there's some nutty laws in the world. A guy in Pennsylvania put a for sale sign on his truck on the street, and it was against the law, and he got a ticket. There's something wrong with people. Will Kramer, who's a retired teacher, put for sale sign on his truck parked in front of his house. But he got a ticket on his 87 Chevy Deluxe pickup saying parking a vehicle in public for the purposes of selling it was illegal. He parked in front of his own house, right? As Mr. Kramer says, it made no sense to me. I could park my truck on the street legally, but as soon as I put a for sale sign on it, it's illegal. But the judge said he was guilty. He tried to sell it online, he couldn't sell it, so he parked and put a sign, the illegal sign on his car. And the guy actually bought the thing, right? Because he saw the sign. Who knows what insanity is going on in these people's minds? But the Nazareth Ordinance 15/411 specifically prohibits parking a vehicle on the street for displaying the same for sale. He goes to court and he loses, so he pays the fine. Get this. His check was returned by the town with a letter saying he owed additional late fees. So then he went and represented himself at court, and he was convicted there and had to pay $123.75. His lawyer, who obviously wasn't all that great, says, people have put for sale signs in car windows as long as cars have been around. There's no legitimate reason for the government to ban it, said one of the attorneys representing Kramer. But they lost, so can't you put a for sale sign on your car? I don't know. People have lost their minds. Woken too much. Janelle says, Scotty, I have a fog ring inside my headlights covering. What should I do? Well, of course, you can't get inside the plastic, right? Because it's a sealed unit. Well, if you got fog in there, that means you got a water leak somewhere, right? What I advise, and it works quite well, I do it on my own cars, is you can take the headlight assembly out. They cost a lot of money. If you want to replace it, you can get an aftermarket one made in Taiwan for low enough price. Sometimes they're $50, $60. You could do that. But if you don't want to spend even that much money, take the headlight assembly out, or if you can access it on the car, get a long drill bit, drill a couple holes in the bottom of the plastic assembly. Water gets in, it will drain out. And just turning your headlights on should get hot enough to get rid of any existing vapor so that the ring will go away. That's the way to go. But if you don't want to mess with it, just go to Amazon, buy aftermarket assemblies, put new ones in. They don't cost that much money. The problem is it's all plastic, and eventually the seals, they're not one giant piece of plastic. They're pieces of plastic that are then just silicone together, and when the silicone goes, they start leaking, or you get rocks, make cracks. Water gets in and makes the fog. You drill a couple holes, it'll drain any water out, and then usually the headlights get hot enough to evaporate what's left, and the fog will go away. Gay Glasstray says, what do you think of auto bodywork? Okay, I tried once, and I'll never try again, because I'm no good at bodywork and painting cars. I did my Opel, the first car I ever had. It looked like an orange peel when you went down the road, right? I was a kid, I didn't have any money. Bondoed, I bought it with a wrecked fender. Bondoed and went over, I painted the whole car, so at least it was the same color, right? But it was a horrible paint job. That is a dirty job. You beat your hands, they all get arthritis, and unfortunately a lot of them get lung cancer from breathing the stuff in. The only way to not get lung cancer when you paint cars is to wear one of those respirators that's a rebreather, just like a scuba diving outfit, because the masks don't filter everything out. You can't filter out those caustic chemicals. The guys are breathing them in. Almost every body man I knew died of cancer when he got older and retired. Some of them died of cancer, but they didn't have a chance to retire. Some of them retired a year or two later, they died of cancer. It's a very dangerous job painting. When cars are originally painted, robots do it. And the robots don't get cancer, right? They don't breathe. They're just... But people, they breathe. And unfortunately, most paint shops, these guys aren't wearing rebreathers. You might have a little mask on, and that's it. So it's a very dirty business. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.